Keep track of times and places throughout 2025 with this fantastic calendar featuring the art of Daryl Joyce. Acclaimed fan favourite artist Daryl Joyce presents his first ever calendar showcasing 12 of his own favourite moments from 26 years of time and space travel. Own these 12 stunning full-colour interpretations with the illustration on one page and a separate full page with ample space for all your dates and notes, and spend 2025 with Daryl's memorable time-travelling moments. Pre-order your copy now and spend 2025 with Daryl's favourite and most memorable time-travelling moments. And now it's time for Who's Views Reviews with JT and the Whotastic panel.
Is anyone hungry? Yes, here we are. Hello, everybody. It's Who's Views Reviews. Welcome, welcome, welcome. It is nice to see you. As you can see, I am here with Paul, with Third Doctor Ian, and with Emilio, the Time Lord Victorious himself. And we are back as part of our what was that? Was that a word? As part of our World Below season. Yes, welcome, 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 everyone. It is lovely to see you. Yeah, we are talking about the Hungry Earth as part of our celebration of Silurians and Sea Devil, and I'm going to say celebration up to this point, but that's just me anyway. How are you lot? You okay?
Not bad. How are you?
Okay, thanks. Do you know what? I'm over the moon. So listen, before we get any further with the show tonight, I'd just like to say a huge, huge thank you. Listen to everybody that watches and has subscribed and is part of Who's Views, all of you, because you are part of this. Thank you for all your emails as usual. Thank you for all your suggestions. Thanks for all your support. And thanks for coming onto the shows and commenting and being part of the shows, you know. But I just want to say a very special thank you tonight to Hugh Janus. And as we know, Kirsty loves me saying that. So I'll say it again just for Kirsty. Hugh Janus, thank you so much. Because remember a couple of weeks ago on the headlines, guys, I was talking about how I needed one particular annual to finish the collection. Well, today from Hugh Janus, I got this. And wow. I was just stunned when I opened this. Look at this. Isn't this beautiful? This is the one annual I needed to complete my collection of annuals. And it's just absolutely stunning. And he was watching the show and just sent me this. And I'm very touched. I'm very humbled. I'm very moved. So thank you for that.
It's a beautiful piece of merchandise. And we have to call him Huge Heart rather than Hugh Janus, I have to say.
I think we do from now on. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. I mean, look at it. It's as though it was
absolutely yesterday. Gorgeous, isn't it? It's gorgeous. And it just reinforces what a melon-headed idiot that fool was in Doctor Who magazine that said the early annuals were naff.
That's why we were talking about it. Well, that's how we got into that.
And your dog agrees as well.
She thinks he's an idiot as well.
Yeah.
But that's Paul disappeared as well. But it's strange, isn't it, that every time that we mention a particular showrunner, your dog kicks off. Actually, but listen, I cannot thank. I know you're watching, and I cannot thank you enough for that, Hugh. This is just so generous. Over the top generous. I am so, as I say, I'm so moved by this. Thank you so much. And I am now the proud owner of all the Doctor Who annuals from the first one to the end of the World Distributors. We are going to be looking at these. We've got a special coming up for you in the next month where we're going to be looking at the annuals and explaining to certain people why these things are so important to us and why they are brilliant and why you just can't say in a magazine they were a bit naff, because they weren't. So again, to Hugh, thank you so much. Really appreciate it. This means the world to me. Thank you so much. And that is going to be well loved and well looked after, I assure you. So thank you.
It's very, very beautiful. Can I say one thing? I am missing from my collection a Dalek set like Ian has, if anyone's interested.
And I'm missing from my collection a classic Dalek from late Pertwee era, like Bedweer.
This isn't Swap Shop,
if anyone's
guys.
listening.
No, that's lovely. That's lovely.
It is, isn't it? Look at this. Legion of James is saying, wow, lucky fella. I am indeed, and I can't believe it. As I say, I'm so touched by it. It's brilliant. And what we've got here, we've got Michael. Michael's with us. Michael Q, hello. Hello, JT, and I say smoking. I see what you did there. Thank you very much. Digby, hello to Digby. Thank you very much for your super chat. Really enjoying these reviews. Sorry I can't join you in real time. Always thought Hungry Earth was a curate's egg. Bears the stain of being a Chibnall story. We're going to be coming up to that very shortly. Digby, you can get us on the get us on the review and let us know, as you usually do, in the comments what you really think. I'll look forward to that. Fantastic. What else we got there? Stephen. Stephen Bradley. Hello, hi everyone at Who's Views with this lovely Ice Warrior. Stephen sent us an email. I was starting to get through the emails today. Stephen has, as we all know, hurt his hand very badly in a little accident he has had. So it's very good of you to type. But he was asking for everybody on the panel as well. And thank you for that, Stephen. So there they are. We know everybody else is fine as well. So thank you for your email.
Is Stephen ambidextrous? I hope, yes.
No, I think he's a Taurus.
Okay, good.
Right, yeah. That was very kind of Mr. Janus, says Richard Brooks. Wasn't it just? Wasn't it just? And John is saying that is so kind of you. What we got? What the devil, says Michael. No, watch out for that in October. That's a plug. Peter Venkman. That's the real community spirit right there. Something you'd be hard pressed to get from current Who fans, isn't it? Just.
Yeah, we were just saying that, weren't we?
Yeah, absolutely. Really lovely. And Stephen again is saying to us, wow, what's such a kind and wonderful act of generosity. And there he is himself. Hugh, again, thank you so much for that. I don't know what to say. I think it's probably one of the nicest things anyone ever done for me. So that is so lovely. Thank you very much. Sheila B in the Devotions is here saying, wow, it's in good condition too, isn't it just? So there we go. So I feel the need, says Sadeko, to check out some of those old annuals. Well, stay with us. Because we're fans of them here. So we will be doing that show in September. So come and join us for that, and we're going to be rejoicing in them. Doctor Who magazine. Right, yes. So as I say, as you can see, we're Third Doctor Ian is here, Paul is here, and Emilio, Time Lord Victorious. And we are talking about the Hungry Earth. So let's go and start it all off, shall we? Yeah, because the Hungry Earth starts. It starts at Quimtaf, South Wales, 2020 AD. It is written by Chris Chibnall, executive produced by Stephen Moffat, and was first broadcast onto the show into Doctor Who on Matt Smith's first season in 2010. All those years ago. Can you ever just imagine?
It's wonderful it's set in 2020, though. That's interesting, isn't it?
Yeah, well, it is,
after
wasn't it?
The pandemic, etc. You know,
they didn't predict COVID, did they, on that one? But have you noticed with Chibnall stories, he absolutely loves, just like at the start of the episode, highlighting what place you're in, what the time zone is. I think it's a really just.
It gets really silly, and the power of the Doctor is every scene goes on like that. It's incredible.
Well, is that something then that he carried on into his series?
Oh yes. Yeah. And
I just think it's lazy, to be honest. You don't need
until one of the latter stories just had the caption up its arse for the entire duration.
Oh yeah, we're in for a good one tonight, Who viewers. This one's going to be a fun one.
And we're not started yet.
Oh, right. Listen. Yeah, I mean, I watched this again a couple of hours ago, just before coming back onto the show, because I suddenly realised that I'd forgotten it. Even though I watched it about 2 or 3 weeks ago, I suddenly wrote, I can't remember what the cliffhanger is. I can't remember much about it. So I watched it again, and then it comes back to you. So that's the third time ever, Emilio. Can you imagine that I've actually watched that show? It's the third time ever. All right.
Wow.
It seems to me I quite like the beginning, because the beginning is a Doctor Who beginning. And it sort of sets the scene, and you've got all that stuff going on there. So I quite like that. But it does seem to me, and tell me what you think, guys. I feel like I've seen this before. In our case, it was a couple of weeks ago. but actually it was in 1970 with the original Silurian story?
Well, it's interesting. If you didn't know the Silurians were in it, you'd have thought the Tractators were coming back. When you think, being a classic fan, with them coming through the earth and stuff,
Yeah, well, that would have made more sense, I think. Controversially saying that, I think it would have been more sense to be the Tractators and Agravis having found themselves on Earth, starting to. But anyway, I'm going off on a tangent there. But it does. I mean, I just thought to myself, there's the story of we've been woken up by the drill and blah 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 blah.
It does nick a lot of stuff from the 1970s story. The typical Chibnall, just lazy. It's just lazy in my opinion. But there were there's some interesting ideas. I do think the cold open is a decent cold open to the episode. Yeah. I think the location scouts, whoever locate, in terms of the setting, I think it feels very kind of 1970s Who, and I think the setting great. But personally, I was watching it and I was like, there's a really good idea about Graves disappearing. And I thought that would have been a better cold open, a little bit more, make it a little bit more scary, that would kind of really hook the audience into go, what? A Graves just literally just disappeared out of nowhere or something like that would have just been a little bit more interesting than the trying to drill idea. But as you say, it gets the point across. It does hook you in, but I think there could have been more creativity there to really make it even better.
Yeah, we've got lots of our friends in the chat coming up with this anyway. Hi to Russ, who's joined us, saying good evening. Lex is saying to us, excellent filming location in South Wales. Isn't it all done down there? Oh, I'm such a bitch sometimes. Also, Stephen's saying to us, watched Hungry Earth again, and I still don't like it. It's so boring in part 2. Now, but part 2 will be here next week. We're going to be looking at, what's it called, Cold Blood, next week. So this is focusing on part 1 only, and then we'll get to that next week. And go on, Paul.
Can I ask you a question? It's this kind of fan theory thing. Why do all these episodes? I know that they're titled 2 different episode titles. But like in the 60s, we called the Daleks. Why is this not called Hungry Earth? And that's
part
it.
2. Yeah, well, I seem to
I know you want 2 shows out of this, GT. I know that's why you're doing it. But
yeah, that's why I'm doing it.
In terms of kind of cataloguing the episodes, if they called it Hungry Earth and they called it Bad Wolf for the Eccleston finale, things like that, why can't they just call it one title?
I remember why, sort of. Okay, it was back in the day when it came back. It was RTD, and he set the standard because he said something along the lines, and somebody in the chat will remember exactly what he said, but he wasn't keen. He had this big discussion with himself and a couple of other people back in 2004, 2005 about whether to call a story part 1 or part 2. But then he thought, again, looking at people with some sort of vision of looking down at them, in my eyes, that might be confusing for the audience, or it might be off-putting for the audience to say, oh, it's part 2, I missed part 1. But then surely you would switch off the television and see a part 2 or a part 3 and go, I missed the other 2, and switch it off anyway.
What do you think people did in the 70s when they missed part 2 and watched part 3? What happened then? I vaguely remember something like that, JT, to be honest. Now you mention it, but
yeah.
What's interesting, JT, is that his final episode, well, before he came back, with The End of Time part 1, The End of Time part 2. So interesting that he his last one maybe in we don't know RTD thinking. Maybe in an ideal world he would like to keep it part 1 and part 2, but maybe for that reason he didn't want to. Again, it doesn't make any sense to me.
God forbid, Bedouin, in the next series there'll be a part 1 and a part 2 of anything, and we'll soon find time. Listen, Michael, thank you for your quote there. JT, the mask the Silurians were wearing, I thought they are real faces. Sean is with us saying, Chibnall and Moffat, what a winning combination. Oh, this is going to be spicy. And Sadeko24, I had really enjoyed Series 5 up to this point. It seemed a huge improvement on RTD's era, but no lie, after just this 2-parter, I was suddenly considering switching off for good. Now, Sadeko, give me a bit more on that if you can. I'll try and find you in the chat. Why exactly? Because that I think that's really, really intriguing, that one. Richard is saying to us, hiya, Richard, Matt is great, but the daughter who killed the Silurian was the weak link in the story. I remember actually feeling exactly. Again, we'll talk about her in the view, but I remember being so tense with that one. But again, there's that familiar theme in this one. You haven't got the brigadier in unit or the civil service or anything up against them, or the navy or whomever. You've got this woman showing humanity up as the wrong sort of, wrong people here. Keep your quotes coming in, everybody. I'll put them on the screen. Thank you, Stephen.
I remember watching this in 2010 on original broadcast. I was 12 at the time, and I remember liking this, and it was kind of, I watched it again recently and thought, actually, this isn't that great, is it? Really, that was really disappointing.
Well, look at this from Golden Age Geek. It's nice to see you. Welcome to Who's Views. Lovely to see you. Even though Series 5 is my favourite of New Who, this story is very much a dip in the road. It's typical Chibnall. I know what you mean there, Golden Age, because I was actually enjoying season 5 from what I remember thinking, this is fresh, this is a different style, this is a completely different energy. I quite like some of where it's coming from because it was getting away from all the soap opera element, which you all know I do not like in Doctor Who. And then this came in. And but for me, as I say, from the Hungry Earth, I'm watching the beginning of it, it does feel Who-y. It does feel Doctor Who-y to me. But then it just gets predictable. That's the words I'm going to use.
It's also sandwiched between Amy Joyce and Vincent and the Doctor, if I'm correct. So those are two very strong episodes, and it kind of definitely shows up this episode if you're watching it in kind of linear order, V2D2 parts. I mean, so it kind of like, yeah, you've got two better stories one that precedes it and one that kind of succeeds it afterwards. So yeah.
I mean, we're in the sort of Golden Age Geek there. Just as an aside, thank you for him reaching out on X this week. That was a lovely comment he made about Who's Views. Real nice.
Well, thank you so much.
Friend of the channel there. That was really nice. But this story is very much in Moffat's era of being an idiot with Rory, isn't he? It's like Kenny in South Park at this point. He dies every episode.
Who killed Rory?
Yeah.
And he can't help doing his silly time things with seeing them waving at the start and then it just being Amy at the end of episode 2 because he's obviously copped it again. But I mean, there are some nice opening setup shots, the distance shots with the valleys and the TARDIS there nestled against the church. Lovely. Beautiful, the dome evokes.
Oh, I've got that. Hang on, look at this.
Yeah.
Is it just me though? But this police box just looks like a prop, though. That's unfortunate.
It does come across quite fat there, doesn't it? I like the fact that it was very much more in keeping with Cushing's, but I still don't think they got it right. Yeah. But I like that. I like that.
That's a better shot there, I think. Yeah.
That's a lovely shot. Yeah. But I don't know. I was hoping for so much more with the Silurians. And then I saw what they were going to appear like, and it was like when he did the Daleks and ruined them.
Oh yes, I forgot about that.
He can't seem to help it. This was a season of ballsing up classic monsters.
At least he went back on the Daleks, though, Ian, didn't he? He didn't go back on the Silurians, sadly, though.
It's a good point, though, isn't it? Because that was the start of actually. You could say this was the start of doing it, wasn't it? We're just messing up our classic
stuff best left alone. Yeah. But I do think Matt Smith was very good in this. I think the way when they were prepping for the Silurians to appear, when they were on their way up, you had that real. When the woman was getting the weapons, she had a shotgun and a taser, or where the hell she got the taser from, and she just put them in front of the car. And he asked her to put the weapons away, and he was asking politely, but there was a real kind of, I don't want to call it menace, but there was a real sort of like firmness in his voice and in his face. But that's just Matt Smith being brilliant. And then when he was actually sat talking with the Silurian, and that was real, that was proper Doctor. That's the kind of stuff that even with 50 years of acting lessons, Gatwa won't come anywhere close to, and neither would Whittaker. To be honest,
that Laughter the Time Lord thing. Yeah, he says, I'm the laughter of my kind. Don't insult me. I think that brings it shows that even though Matt Smith is 26 or 27 whenever he filmed this, he still gives you the impression this is a guy who's 900 years old, fought in the Time War, etc. He brings that kind of old man and a young man body in that scene. Definitely, I completely agree with you on that.
He's got real gravitas as well. Real gravitas when he meets Nazarene and the granddad in the complex. He comes in, walks in really confidently, and you believe he's the Doctor immediately when he walks in. There's no you know, they don't disrespect him. They believe him. It's incredible.
Yeah.
Really well
Yes.
done. You know?
It's a magic moment. Can we hold that thought for just a minute? Because I just want to read out some of these comments. We've got Richard there saying, why did they have Rory and Amy waving from across the valley? No idea, because he rewrote that, didn't he? So they can't possibly, because they were trapped in Manhattan, if I remember correctly, the year after. And Sadeko was answering his my question. The main reason I wanted to switch off is I found it mean-spirited and sanctimonious. I didn't feel on side with it at all. That's very interesting. Thank you for that. Golden Age Geek is saying to us, Chibnall's promotion to showrunner was the antithesis of the metrocracy. Is that how I say that? Metrocracy. The idea that someone can write the likes of 42, this, dinosaurs on a spaceship, oh, forgotten about that, and then get put in charge is baffling. Michael is saying to us here, 2010, before the dark times, before the woke. That's true, isn't it? Absolutely, that one there. Yeah. Oh, and Julianne. Hi, Julianne. Nice to see you. I rewatched this yesterday. I think I've gone off New Who. It wasn't as good as my memory would have me believe. This is actually a point I've been saying to lots of people, isn't it? Actually, the fact that this version of Doctor Who, the reboot Doctor Who, will date. I personally feel it will date very quickly. And when you're looking at stuff now like that, Julianne, I think that's what's happening.
It has really dated, and the effects in this are terrible. Some of the CGI effects in this make Mrs. Farrell's kitchen and Ted the Octos look convincing. It really does, honestly.
Yeah, it's the tongue from the lizard as well, which strikes the
the
grandfather
explosions,
there.
or when the ground kind of kind of explodes and the kind of rubble comes from the ground and stuff. It all looks really, really bad animation, honestly.
Yeah. Yeah, lots of comments coming through, guys, from everybody in the chat. Thank you very much. Sean saying to you, Ian, you're right, Ian, that TARDIS was all wrong. And Sadeko again saying, what really bothered me is I found the Silurians here utterly unsympathetic and nasty, and the Doctor tells us we should be accepting of them anyway. That's why I kind of wanted to switch off. Yeah, we're going to come to that in a sec, because I still don't quite get it. I want to say hello to Craig the Panda. It is nice to see you, Craig the Panda. Welcome back to Who's Views. Lovely to see you. And then lots of people on the subject of Matt, Golden Age Greek. Matt had the youngest face but the oldest eye. He is the Doctor through and through. Matt Smith is the Doctor, and Matt Smith in that two-party is like he was channeling John Pertwee's Doctor. Yeah. With the Legion of James also saying, I like Matt, Amy and Rory and remembered enjoying part one up until the way the Silurians look like. Oh, until the way the Silurians look like, and that let it down. But on rewatch, though, it's actually a bit of a cut and paste story with Silurians in name only. Well, yeah, I mean, that's probably
so
that. And hello,
there's so much opportunity to make it a better story.
Yeah,
you know, the second great. Yeah, sorry.
Let me just let's to Leo. Welcome, hello, Leo. Nice to see you. Welcome. A redesign of the original Silurian design was considered. But originally, it was at the time the BBC was cutting costs after the financial crash, and presumably this was one of the cuts. So let's get to this right now, Emilio, as well. I don't know if you were going to mention this, but we've shown this on our original episode where we've launched Worlds Below, this whole series that we're doing right now. I'm going to show it to you again now, but this was the original idea concept for the Silurians for this series.
That is gorgeous. Absolutely gorgeous.
Yeah, I'd have loved that.
Beautiful.
It is, isn't it? And it's basically what we got in the 70s. It's paying homage to it. It's moving it on slightly. And what we got was this, as we all know. Now,
it's
imagine
scared to hide the actor.
Well, imagine if we got that. You wouldn't have got all those lesbian things and all that going on later on, would you?
No, probably why he did it, Moffat.
Well, it's a theory, isn't it? Do you know what I mean, Emilio?
Maybe they should have spent their money on the pantomime Daleks. That would have been a good idea. use it.
Yeah, they blew it on that, Emilio. That's right. Yeah, they blew the money on that.
Yeah, they blew it on that. Yeah.
I mean, I don't get it. I mean, Doctor Who is a monster show. It's a monster show. Apparently, what happened, everybody, and Emilio, I don't know if you know about this as well, but apparently, what happened is, this was cast, this was put together by people, and then certain people in the production unit or makeup or whatever said, oh no, it's got to be prosthetics because then you can see the actor. But that's not what Doctor Who is. And at this point, huge thank you to Lex Kane, who I know is in the chat, because I mentioned this before, and Lex sent me some really nice pictures of this. I think these Silurians are too Star Trek, and I'm going to rest my case here.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
What race are they in Star Trek? I'm not familiar with them. Do we know?
I'm not sure what the race was called. Lex, do you know? Can you remember? But this was a story which was about a planet in the Delta Quadrant, which was ruled by a race of reptiles who were actually dinosaurs, as we would know them. They were dinosaurs on Earth, and they've been living in the Delta Quadrant for all these millennia. Voyager comes across them, and of course they've developed. They've gone into these sort of things. But
that sounds awfully familiar.
Those second ones. Those second ones are from Deep Space Nine. They're the Jem'Hadar.
Thank you.
They were the warrior race used
I've got
by
that one
the shapeshifters.
Right, I've got that one. I wasn't familiar with DS9, but thanks for that. But this one definitely from Voyager, that one there. Because I remember thinking at the time, watching this back in the 90s, Emilio, I remember thinking, I've seen this somewhere before. But there you go. Interesting.
It looks a little bit like Tim Shaw from Jodie's. Was it first series?
A little bit. I know what you mean.
You know, the one with the teeth. They look very similar.
At least Star Trek, though. At least what they've done is they've put some contacts in to make them look not quite. This is clearly just a woman in makeup. You know, it's a reptile, but it's got human eyes. It's a reptile, but it's got human teeth. Whereas at least in Star Trek, they did something with the eyes. I can't remember in the picture if we could see if they did something with the teeth or not. Occasionally they do, but they are just people in makeup. That's all they are. People in makeup.
I think that takes you out of it, doesn't it?
Yeah, completely.
Because you're watching it and you're like, they don't see. It just looks like a human being in a makeup costume. You don't believe it's an actual alien because it's just too close to looking like too close to human, really. Yeah.
I think actually Neve's given quite a good performance in this, but for me, they're just simply not Silurians. That's the problem, you know.
Yeah. I don't understand why Doctor Who had to go down the prosthetic Star Trek route rather than the Doctor Who monster route. And as we proved a couple of weeks ago, and indeed on Doctor Who and the Silurians review and the Warriors of the Deep review, that's what Doctor Who's all about. It's about monsters. It's not about necessarily making them look human, because they're not supposed to be humanoids, are they? You know, they're not humanoids. They are supposed to be reptiles from millions and millions of years ago. Hello to John. Nice to see you, John. Thanks for joining us here on Who's Views. Not seen you before. Nice to see you. Welcome. What are you going to say, Paul?
I was going to say about the third eye on Neve is Alea and Raz. Is it Raz? I can't remember the sister's name. She appears in part 2. The eye, they've got like a patch where the eye would have been. You know what I mean? I wonder if that would have made any difference to the look if they had the third eye there at least and gave that a bit of prominence on it, because it is there in the makeup. You know what I mean? Like it's an eyelid almost. It's really good.
What on the one they rejected?
No. On the one they actually used, they've got like if you see that on her forehead, there's like a triangular section where the eye could have gone.
Oh, I see. Yeah.
You think they could have, if they added that, probably still would have made it look any better, but at least it would have been a hint towards the Silurians, but it's still very, very human. That's the problem, isn't it? So
that's a very good point.
It's like a Silurian with dreadlocks, you know.
Well, they did that with the Ice Queen, didn't they? So they did that later on, but
did they? I can't remember.
Peter Capaldi's Ice Warrior story, they did that, didn't they?
Yeah,
Empress of Mars.
That's the one. Yeah.
See, I've forgotten that. Often nonsense. You were talking about. I have to agree with you all about what you were saying about Matt Smith. This scene is actually incredible. I love this scene. It's so good, and the way and you're all agreeing with us in the chat here. Well, the majority of you are agreeing with the chat. This was a moment I remember watching originally back in 2010, just thinking, yeah, he's nailed this. He knows what he's doing here. He's actually done some research. 2024 people. He understands what the character is. But this whole thing about when he takes the mask off, Silurians wearing masks, I ask you, he takes that mask off though and goes, "Oh, you are beautiful." Therefore surprising the Silurian warrior, who just goes, "What? You're not scared of me?" Because this is when she suddenly starts to realize this isn't an ape. This is something more. And
when he says she's beautiful, that's a lovely moment. That is really nice. And it's not in a creepy way either. It's actually excited to meet a new race. It's lovely.
Yeah, very Doctor Who.
Yeah, that bit was, and it's just a shame, really, isn't it? Because the elements are there, but for some reason it just doesn't gel. I don't think.
Well, it's interesting. I was crazy enough to listen to the proms the other night there, and they had on the proms a recorded message from Shooty speaking to the audience the way David Tennant did when he did Music of the Spheres years ago at the proms, and then they showed a clip from the Pandorica with Matt Smith doing his Doctor speech, and they were chalk and cheese next to each other. It was incredible, the difference. It was palpable. It really was.
Yeah.
Well, we'll talk about that on headlines
Just
on Sunday.
It really, doesn't it?
Yeah. I mean, you can either play the Doctor or you can't. Lee's making a highly interesting point there. Makeup appliances are cheaper than full head masks. You are, of course, quite right.
But then you've got, I mean, you look at the Draconians, which are reptile creatures, and they were part prosthetic and used the lower half, which was just the face with makeup of the actor, and they work so much better. They look so different, not just a person in makeup, which is what this was, and that was 1973.
And likewise with Lynx as well. Lynx is another example of a really good makeup, and the Ogrons as well.
But this is when Doctor Who, our Doctor Who, proper Doctor Who, wanted monsters in the show because they knew that the audience, i.e., all of us as kids, would love the thrill of a monster in Doctor Who. And part of the reason you tuned in week after week after week was to see what the next big monster was going to be. And then you were pining about all the action figures you never had. But until you were 40, 50 something. But it's a real case there. They've lost that, and now it's down to pretentiousness in my eyes. And 2010 was where this really came in for me to be able to say that's not a Silurian. And the other thing is as well, as somebody mentioned in the chat, sorry, I lost who you were. Why is the warrior class all female in this? Because were they trying to redress the balance here, do you think? Because all we saw before were alleged males of the species. I just still don't get it.
Well, it seems now that all the males, I know we're going to do part 2 next week, they seem to be scientists and political leaders rather than warriors. It's weird.
Let's have a look at this.
They're also painted to be the good Silurians as well. So you can't really put it on like, if it was in 2024, it would be like, no, they're bad and the women are great. But it doesn't paint it in that way, obviously. But yeah, it's interesting why they did it that way. But yeah, I don't think there was any agenda. It doesn't seem like there was an agenda behind it.
But I just don't understand it. I really don't understand it. I mean, I do think personally that, in my naivety, I didn't see it in 2010, but I do, now that we know what Chibnall is like, I do think this sort of thing as, they've got to be, or the warriors have to be female. I do think it's there. I think I think it's hidden, but I think that's where it started actually in this, to be able to say, I'm writing these as all female warriors. And I don't really get why. And of course, they had the same actress, Neve McIntosh, of course, playing the two sister Silurians.
Yeah.
I suppose we'll get to that in a minute as well. I like this one from Lex Kane as well. There was a funny scene when Nasreen, she said, "Oh, Tony," after Tony kisses her. Tony says, "Like you didn't know." Yeah, that's there's this whole point there. I mean, I have to say about this, what a character. What an actress playing her.
Well, it shows that an older companion can work in the same vein as Evelyn Smythe and Big Finish. It's a great idea to have an older, stronger female companion,
Yeah.
I agree. Yeah.
Shades of Liz Shaw, really, isn't it?
Yeah.
I think this is back when Doctor Who used to have guest actors that could come in for one episode and they would do an amazing job. Whereas I just don't think the level of guest actors in the past 7 or 8 years have been to the same level it was in the RTD1 or the Moffat era. They always used to make sure they got really, really good guest actors and giving them really good parts. Just seemed they didn't feel like guest actors; they feel like main characters for that story. Whereas I find like now it's just they're just random people that appear. You don't really get invested in the guest actors as much as we used to.
Or they get a big name but don't use them enough, things like that,
Do you think, though, that if they got really good guest actors in over the last 7 or 8 years, it would have made Whittaker and Gatwa look stupid?
Oh, 100%.
They're not going to do it, are they? Because, I mean, look at what happened when, I didn't like the concept of a female doctor, still don't, never will. Or the hundreds, thousands, millions, God knows how many it is today, doctors that have been previously. but that one played by Joe Martin didn't particularly like that either. But Joe Martin acted Whittaker off the stage, because she was just better than her. So
and they were rumbling that she was unhappy or something about it, or like I mean, it doesn't take a really smart person to realize that she was, as you say, out acted and outshone on screen and have more screen presence. So
let's not talk about Whittaker.
I'd have an issue with that.
We won't talk about Whittaker because it's not her show, right?
Fine.
Don't know it. We haven't got anything about that. Let's keep it to the Hungry Earth and what Chibnall's rating here with these. But I think this is Mira Sayal. I want to give her a big shout out because this is one of those examples of a companion we never had for me. And I think the way she works with Smith's Doctor is superb. So why these people in charge of the show are always concerned about putting an older, let's say, actor in the role of a companion, I don't know, because it worked for Barrowman, it worked for Catherine Tate, and it works here for Mira Sayal. And I just think she's wonderful. That bit where she suddenly realizes, I like this guy, where he's going off that thing saying you've got to be the best of your species, you've got to do this, and he's more or less warning the mother of the piece, and he's talking that, and then she starts clapping. That's a wonderful companion for me, and I would have been very happy, Who viewers, if she climbed aboard the TARDIS at the end of the second episode. But I just love the performance from her. She's really delivering here. What do you guys think on that?
I think she's real believable, and she's got a good rapport with Matt Smith as well, which works really well. And like I said earlier, that the first time she meets the Doctor and Amy coming into the drilling complex, it really works. It really clicks, and it's really believable, and they bounce off each other. Can I ask one question though? When they come to see Nazarene and the granddad character, I've forgotten the character's name now, and Amy says, well, "Why are you dressed like that? I dress for Rio." I don't get that gag. Does anyone get that? Because what do you wear when you go to Rio? I don't get that gag at all. Yeah,
but she's not dressed for
wearing a bikini or something. What I don't understand.
Yeah.
Or dressed for Mardi Gras or something. I don't get the gag.
She's not dressed. I don't get it either. She's in cowboy boots and a red top, a leather jacket. She just looks to me like a normal Amy Pond outfit. It doesn't look like it's dressed for Rio at all. I mean, if you're going to Rio, you're right. It would be warm stuff, not a leather jacket. I just don't get it.
She'd wear a big feather and a sort of spangly bikini and stuff to look like she's dancing in the parade or something, that kind of thing. But
yeah, she turned up looking like Leela. They'd have a valid point there.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I mean.
She looks exactly the same as she does in
and she did last
week. Every episode. Yeah. So I
definitely should have been in a bikini.
I'm glad it wasn't just me, because I thought I wasn't getting the gag there. But
no, it's not. Unless someone of the Who viewers actually understands the gag, because I just think what a stupid piece of dialogue. Because why would you wear cowboy boots in Rio anyway? Surely it'd be in sandals.
I think on your point on Nazarene, I think what works with her and Matt Smith or the Doctor is that they're both inquisitive. They both, like, at the end of the episode, she's very keen to get on the TARDIS because she's like, I've been working my whole life to see what's under the ground, and I can't miss this. And I think the Doctor and her share that same kind of curiosity and that sense of adventure, and I think the two work really well.
No, I know what you mean. I mean, I agree with that as well. She recognizes that this man has the answers to her questions, and she's not daft, is she? And the way she plays it, the way it's written, I'm going to say as well, it's not daft. She knows suddenly this guy's not human, and it takes her a little bit of time to possibly even say that, but she knows by this point. She says, right, he's going somewhere. This guy's not from around here, and I'm going with him. And I just wish she kept that attitude going. Really, it's just such a shame, isn't it, Who viewers? Yeah. I love her.
And that's his costume, right? I think I wasn't sure at the first scene whether she was referring to Amy or she was referring to the fact that she's seen like the Doctor, like, what are you wearing? But his costume doesn't look like what a normal person would wear, and that again very quickly can help her get to the point. Oh, this guy's clearly an alien. I mean, who goes around with a tweed jacket and a?
I love Matt's costume in this. I really do. Really suits him.
It does. I prefer that jacket to the one he wears in Series 6. I prefer it.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, this is a very simple costume, his original one, and there's actually, for me personally, who viewers, and forgive me for this, but there's a sort of it's reminiscent of what happened with Tom. He starts very, very, undesigned, very simple, like the Doctor's just thrown things on because he likes it, and then suddenly at some point towards his last year, he gets designed, and it becomes a little bit more, because I didn't like that purple outlook either. Yeah. Whereas this one, though, you're right. I mean, this must have been very comfortable, but it does actually work for the Doctor, especially in this episode. I think suddenly he's in this area and he's supposed to get back in the TARDIS, isn't he, really, and go off somewhere else, but he sees blue grass and that's it.
Yeah.
The Doctor's there.
I love all that tasting the grass and all that very bizarre Doctor thing. That's lovely,
Superb stuff, isn't it?
Yeah,
it really is superb stuff.
Matt
that
just
one
nails it. He just nails the whole character. I think out of all of them, even Capaldi, I think Matt Smith got to be the most doctorish out of all of them. I think he just did. Very, very talented guy.
The way he uses his, I know he talked about the way he uses his like hands and body movements. It's very different. It's very kind of alien in the way that he moves, even from a physical movement all the time. You can tell it's something he clearly thought about it and he's spoken about it. So yeah, I think that extra kind of effort, that extra level of thinking, that does set him apart from a lot of the new Doctors.
He's got really odd coordination. It reminds me vaguely of that character in Men in Black. The giant bug that becomes a human and it can't move properly. It's a bit like that, bizarre physicality that Matt's got. It's brilliant that he's an alien. It's lovely, lovely touch. Yeah.
Again, because he's such a good character actor, as he has proved since leaving Doctor Who. If he came back to Doctor Who now and did a Tennant, he would be able to do not a repeat performance. He would be able to come up with a completely new Doctor because he's that good. He'd be able to go, right, I'm this age now, I've got this experience now. That one's in the past. This is the one I could do now. And I think it would be incredible. Not that I'm saying we should do that, Who viewers, don't get me wrong, but had it been Smith rather than Tennant that had the second crack of the whip, I do think instead of just repeating what he'd done before and calling it a different incarnation, I think it would have been a completely different turn. Because there was,
You'd make a great martyr, I think. You could put, how they've now got a precedent that the Doctor can revisit old faces. Well, it'd be so funny for the Master to basically take on one of the old Doctor's faces and almost turn it against him in a way. And especially Matt Doctor, which is very kind of like he had light-hearted. He shows in dark, but he wanted a more light-hearted kind of quirky kind of Doctors. I think that would be an interesting take. And obviously Matt's very good at playing kind of like off the edge characters now, and I think I agree with you, JT. He could bring so much more to the Doctor, but also he could another role within who would be really interesting to see.
Yeah.
Obviously, don't do that because
we don't want to do that.
We don't do ideas.
No. We're not testing at BBC Studios. We don't want to do that. BBC
don't do that.
Listen, Julianne saying to us here, Matt Smith and Mira say I would have been a fantastic TARDIS crew away from the constant killing of Rory in the River Song drama. They erased Rory from history in part 2, so how is River still alive? Oh, spoilers. Oh. Thanks, Julianne.
Yeah, we've not seen part 2 yet.
We're not doing part 2 till next week. Oh, thanks for... Oh, she's outrageous, isn't she? Lex Kane, thank you so much for your super chats here. Check out What Waits Below. It's a sci-fi movie. It's on the Tube of Who, he says there. So thank you for that. Why? Is it something to do with all the lizards, Lex? You have to let me know. But thank you for your super chat on that one as well. Mark is with us as well. Mark, hiya, Mark. Amy's devotion to Rory is confusing, with aspects of the relationship feeling more like Stockholm syndrome than genuine love. That's interesting, isn't it?
Yeah.
That is interesting. Yeah, because in this bit here, I mean, I never knew where they were going in this series either. And this is why I always hate all this stuff about love coming into Doctor Who, because that's a soap opera element to me. And I really can't be bothered with it. And I can't keep it up. Who cares? I would rather just have Sarah and Harry and just enjoying the ride. But it's interesting because you've got that bit where they see themselves from allegedly 10 years in the future. And she's shocked. Oh, and she's more or less disgusted. Oh, we're still together in 10 years. And he goes, oh, don't be so surprised, And I just thought, that poor boy. That poor boy in this episode. And then he's so concerned when she disappears. Where is she? Where is she? Where is she? Who else thinks that, does she deserve that sort of concern? I mean, I wasn't even worried when this happened. You know, I was like, yeah, just get down there and see what's happening, love. You know.
It was funny when she gets taken to the Silurian base. She's in this kind of container, and I got vibes of Time with the Rani when she bangs on the plastic or the glass. You know, and that bit where the Rani's locked in when they put her in episode 4, and she's banging on the kind of it's the sugar glass. It's really flimsy. That reminds me of that. You know, I think
that's a good point. Yeah, no, I see it now. What you're saying, I didn't at the time. I just thought, okay, yeah, keep her in there. I did quite enjoy this bit. I thought, ooh,
it is quite sinister, especially when the other guy shows the scar down his stomach and says that he's been basically dissected. It does kind of have an air of threat and potentially, real danger to it. So
if the Salus were scary though, but they're not, are they, in this?
Well, exactly. If that had been 1970, you'd have been like, right, this is really going somewhere. But even if they dissected her completely and killed her, she'd be back in episode 2 because that's what Moffat does. That's what they all do. They all come
Everybody
back.
lives. That's it.
Yeah, and Rory did it about 87 times this series, didn't he? But I think you're right as well. That Amy has a very strange relationship with Rory, especially in this series, because not only is it borderline abusive at times, but it's just a few episodes previously that she's just tried to jump the Doctor, hasn't she?
Yeah.
And I don't know where the hell that came from or why it was thought to be appropriate. I felt genuinely uncomfortable watching that.
There's another bit. I think it's in them Vampires in Venice. The Doctor pops out the cake at his stag do, and then promptly tells the group that he's snogged his fiance. It's horrible.
That's probably like the worst part of series 5. But I also thought, like in the episode, yes, we know probably Amy's still going to be around, but as an audience member, I want to kind of believe, you want to try as much as possible to get the audience members to believe that actually maybe maybe she's dead. We don't know, like, how are they going to breathe underground, whatever. Like, I just felt like the Doctor just saying, yeah, just trust me. Yeah, great, but I think they could have added a bit more tension there by basically, they could have just died. You don't know where, they just what could have happened to them, and I don't think they explored that enough to kind of really bring some more tension to the episode.
Yeah,
totally agree with you, Emilio. I mean, if you look at the original Silurians, when Liz Shaw is in the barn, and that the Silurian is still in there with her, and then the Doctor and Brigadier realize when they're at the hospital that they're like, shit, she could be dead here. And there's real tension there, and you don't know when it gets her, and that's the end of the episode. You've got to wait for a whole week, and that was a proper cliffhanger. But
I completely agree with you. Maybe they could have just done it where, like, you didn't see Amy at all that episode, or whatever, and basically the whole episode, it built the tension that we don't know whether the dad or her are alive or dead, and really bring up to date. And basically in part 2 you find out, but in part 1 you shouldn't see them whatsoever. You should be left guessing as an audience member to what's happened. And I also think, like, that they had a great setting in the church. They could have really maximized that, bring a bit of horror factor, like it completely pitch black. You can't see what trying to get them. There was just so much more you could do with it, and that's why I felt like the whole episode, just there's some really good foundation there to make this a great episode. But it just Chibnall, he sticks it safe, doesn't he? So yeah.
Thank you, everybody, for watching us this evening. It's lovely to see you all. Thank you for all your comments as well. Really, really appreciate it. So we've got a couple of things there, that people were saying. So welcome to the 21st century, JT, says Michael Q about the whole companion thing. Yeah, no, Michael, I don't like it. I want to get off. I don't like it at all. And,
can I come with you?
Yeah. If I had a child, I'd be going back to the decent times. And Peter Venkman's fansite is saying they can't all be Ian and Barbara. No, they can't all be Ian and Barbara. I get that. But my point here as well is I just don't think sexuality or this whole lovey-dovey stuff that has been introduced since 2005, and this is my opinion, I don't think it has a place in Doctor Who. It was tacked on with Leela, of course, with Andred and the Invasion of Time, but here we have a whole series developed around Amy, and firstly her affection towards the Doctor, and I'm going to use that word, and then this ongoing slightly abusive relationship with Rory, which she then forgets, spoiler alert, which we'll talk more about next week. I don't understand. And now we've got this whole thing going on. It builds and builds and builds to the point where we are today in 2024. And I just don't, what's it got to do? I mean, again, I think it's something to do, guys, with the fact that they are looking at their audience and thinking we have to have these soap opera elements in to make the British public or the general public understand what Doctor Who is. And what they've done is they've destroyed an element of Doctor Who, which was always about nothing to do with that. It was about monsters and science fiction and traveling through time and space and spaceships and Time Lords being baddies and slight camp. It wasn't to do with Liv and kissy and who's doing who. You know what I mean?
Ian and Barbara were in it for two. I mean, bear in mind, it was probably on for about 46, 48 weeks a year, wasn't it, in the original series? And so they were in it for 2 whole years.
Yeah.
On screen virtually every Saturday for 2 whole years. And you might have thought that at some point in the future they could get together. And even when they left in the chase and had that montage of shots, you thought that maybe, but it was always left. It was just in the books. It was just in the books where Whittaker, right at the very end of the crusade, had Barbara lean across and give Ian a kiss because he'd rescued her. That was the only time it was ever even hinted at that there was something else. But it was way more believable than what you've got here.
Yeah. If it's subtle, it works, right?
Yeah.
And you know, you wouldn't mind it if maybe you got occasional hints, especially if you had a male, female in the TARDIS that, you know, start off as friends, maybe event, you know, they clearly develop feelings and, you know, over a period of time, or maybe one of them dies subtly, and then you find out that actually the person had more feelings, but just deal with it in a more kind of realistic way. And yeah, it doesn't have to be the centerpiece, as JT was saying, of a story or a season's arc, but it can be there very subtly. But also, I agree, there's nothing wrong with platonic relationships. It doesn't make you less human. I think we should, you know, I think there's, you know, you can do a lot with platonic friendships and kind of deep connection people form without having to be any romance. So I think it's the way you do it. I don't think romance in of itself is a bad thing in Doctor Who, but I think it's how you do it more.
I think and especially when it comes to this now, because we're seeing it and it transfers to everything else. I mean, in a few stories' time, we get a lesbian Silurian. That's nonsense. It's utter nonsense. And it's married to a human being. That's really not right at all either. Silurians are not the same as human beings. They are the original inhabitants, as we've discovered on our discussions here, of this planet. They would not associate, they would not tolerate the apes, because they will all have that. This is our planet and you've destroyed it, humanity, as is proven in this episode as well, because we repeat what's happened in Silurians and the Sea Devils, Warriors of the Deep. It's here again. This theme is here again of humanity's just not ready. So you've got all this. And I think that's the problem with it, because they just carry on and they carry on and they carry on, and it's got out of hand now. It really has got out of hand. That's what I'm saying. If they'd gone with that original Silurian costume, it would never have happened. And I rue the day that some bright spark says, oh no, let's have prosthetics. Hello and welcome to Who's Views, Dog Olv. Am I saying that right? I hope so. Dog Olv, it is lovely to see you. Welcome to Who's Views. Rory was so loving and didn't deserve to be treated the way Amy treated him. Here. And yeah, I'm totally agree with you. George is here saying to us, I quite like this episode back in the day. What do you think now, George? What are you thinking now? And Richard is saying to us, the Silurians were not awoken by the drill because the scientist was awake all the time, as was the head soldier. I thought they were woken by the drill, those two. I never
understood how, if the drill woke them up, why was the drill going down, but they were drilling up? You know, you would imagine if the drill woke them up, the drill would have got near their base, but it indicated or suggested that they hadn't, that they were drilling the other way. So how far did they come up? They'd gone down 21 kilometers. How far had the Silurians come up? You don't know. It's not given away, is it? It's just hinted.
Really good point. Maybe,
It's
yeah,
very
just
good point.
Chibnall didn't think about our logical logic to that.
Well, they certainly did.
He never did.
Talking of Chibnall, as Chibnall, when he did the Sea Devils later, he kept them faithful to 72. I wondered if he originally wanted to have proper Silurians in this, if he envisaged that when he was doing the writing of the story, to have them as they were, and then maybe they changed it, like you said, due to budget restraints. But I have a horrible feeling that the new team, when they do the spin-off, might go and make the Sea Devils like the Silurians in this, which would be such a shame if they do.
Oh no!
I bet they do.
Well, the whole point of doing Worlds Below now here, of course, everybody, is to celebrate the fact that we're celebrating the Silurians and Sea Devils because we love them, or at least their first two stories, 2 and a bit maybe, and also the fact we're preparing for this new series on its way. Whenever that's on the way.
What were you going to say there, JT?
So we're going to be preparing for that
it
as
rhymes
well.
with trap, Emilio.
Yes. That's why we're doing this whole Worlds Below, because we are getting ready for that. Obviously, we are going to be doing, as I've said before, we are going to be reviewing the Sea Devils, but nearer to the time as part of this. And we do have another episode of our Worlds Below series coming in a couple of weeks' time, which is our Prehistoric Sounds of Huzik show, where we're going to be chatting about the music to these stories, yes, including Murray Gold. So yes, thanks that. Problem is, says Sadeko24, if Silurians and humans just end up hating and destroying each other every time, there's nowhere else to go with their story. Now, I'm glad you've said that, Sadeko, because this is what this whole episode is building up just for what we will be reviewing next week in part 2. It's about this whole thing where the Doctor knows he's in the routine now. He's been through this 3, possibly 4 times before. So he's been here before with the Silurians on that, and he cares for them both. The original inhabitants of this globe there, humanity there, and the way Matt's playing it as well, he can't understand why can't they just get together? Why can't they just talk? And I love the fact that when we look at these characters that are surrounding him, these characters are quite interesting, actually. So we've got the father, we've got the son.
I liked the wee boy. I thought he was quite convincing, actually.
He's a lovely little actor there. I wonder what he's doing now.
Yeah.
And then we've got the mother of this unit here, the mother here. And the Doctor knows which one, he can sense which one's going to be trouble, because it's a mother. It's a mother character. It's the mothership, as we get told in a later one. I think that's very interesting, the way Matt Smith plays that, because he could have chose to say, right, the Doctor is ignorant of this, and yet he's not. And it does sort of tie in with his experience previously. Do you know where I'm coming from on this?
Yeah. It's a kind of perjury in the he in the 1970s episode. I'm not going to go and say the whole title; it'll take too long. He's quite intuitive very quickly, and about the director, and this guy's going to annoy me. Waste of time. But like that, where the Doctor's very quick and very intuitive on who's good or who's bad or who's going to be trouble or who's going to annoy him. I think that kind of trait showed that he's how intelligent and how easy he picks it up, and they do it very subtly. I agree, JT, but I think it's a good way of highlighting that the Doctor is hyper intelligent and hyper.
It's another aspect of where we're appreciating Matt here, because the highlight of this episode for me, hands down, is Matt Smith. Hands down. The rest of it is utterly forgettable, but it's Matt Smith and Mira Sorrell. And when the two of them get together, for me, but his performance here is stunning. This is the Doctor.
He's got an amazing energy about him, which is superb, really.
It's incredible. And he's so respectful in his performance. And I love the fact that when you look at what he's doing, guys, he is respectful with this. He thinks, how would the Doctor do this? Because he's a character actor. Not how I would, how I was, say I was an actor. You know what I'm getting at here, Whovies. What am I going to wear and perform? He's thinking, right, okay, how would the Doctor act in this situation? These creatures are from his past. He's been in this situation before. He's got the ability right now to try and correct a mistake he's made 3 times.
Yeah,
I love that. Am I imagining that with the Matt Smith performance? I just think just stand out performance. The best thing about this episode for me.
There's little subtle touches he does that makes me laugh. There's a bit where they rush to the TARDIS and she wants to go in. He tries to stop her, and that's a lovely little moment of like, you're not coming in. Yes, you are. Yeah, okay. That's really a nice little moment. It's lovely.
Yeah.
That's what I mean. It's these little elements of character, because that's Matt Smith's the only Doctor I could think who could do that. Even Tom wouldn't do that. John wouldn't do that. That's a Matt Smith Doctor moment. What? Close the door again. No. And then
it's a shame though, the reveal of the TARDIS. I hate this TARDIS set in this season. It's horrible. It's apart from I like the big scanner, it's quite nice. Only gets used a couple of times, but when they go in, it's really underwhelming. It's like I'm surprised Nazarene doesn't say, "What is this crap? What is that?" It's not very good.
Also, just in terms of Matt Smith's performance, I think the scene, I'm sure we'll talk about it a little bit more, but where obviously the kid, the kid goes to get his headphones, and the Doctor obviously, just too busy. He basically, he fails in kind of, keeping that kid safe because
he's not a great babysitter. I'll give him that,
Yeah. But the scene where he realizes that, oh crap, I've made a real boo-boo here. I've really messed up. But the face reaction, his eyes, just the shock of it, it's very unlike the Doctor to to do that. And it's almost like you could see how hard he were taking it personally himself. And just all through his facial move, his face expression, Matt Smith nails it in that scene.
Well, that scene for me shows the alienness of the Doctor, which I think was actually missing from his previous incarnation. Because here you've got this fresh. We're still getting to know this version. He's still getting to know himself, really, isn't he, who viewers? And I love that scene because he just waves the kid off, another human being. I love it because it's alien. You can't respond to it as a human being because he's not. And why would he think about this small human, as Sylvester would say, going off to do that? Why would
but he does though. His relationship with him really, really sweet. He talks about he's dyslexic, but he can draw. And he's some of this kind of like supportive stuff to the wee boy's lovely without being rammed down your throat. It's quite subtle. It's quite clever. It's cleverly written.
But also been a father before, doesn't it? It gives the Doctor's very paternal, fatherly kind of. He's still a fatherly figure. I think it does a really, really good job.
Do that's really interesting here? We can see the difference between the three of us and Emilio here, not just in where we're coming from Doctor Who, but in our ages, because in our world, we've never ever discussed the Doctor being a possible father. Because it was never ever discussed when we were growing up. We didn't even imagine he could possibly have a father. And again, that's another element that New Who has brought in since 2005 as a soap opera element to say, oh, how can we make him more relatable? Oh, let's make him a dad, which he always was, but it was never in 26 of Glorious and a Superior Time Travel. It was never brought up. It was only.
Now Susan's adopted. She's not really his granddaughter.
But it's interesting, isn't it? Because Emilio.
She's the timeless child.
I don't mind them bringing up. When you've had like Amy, I think, asks in The Beast Below, for example, in Series 5, have you been a father? And the Doctor just gives her a look. And I think that's all. I don't think you don't need him to talk about it. I know he did it with David Tennant in the Catherine Tate one, where they actually. I don't. It doesn't need to go to that level, but I think just a look, right? Like just so we don't know what's happened to them. Keep that kind of for your imagination, but I don't mind somebody asking the question in the show and the Doctor basically not answering it, but you can see that there's a lot more to it in his going on in his mind basically when someone asks him that. I think that's
interesting. That's really interesting considering what we've just had in 2024, because from my point of view, it should have stopped with that scene in the Tomb of the Cybermen, and it did. For the rest of the series run, it stayed right there in the Tomb of the Cybermen with Pat Troughton, and it never reared its head again. And I was quite happy to do that. But for me, it seemed again, as I was saying there, just the lazy aspect. Oh, we've got to make the Doctor relate. No, you don't. He's not a human. He's an alien. Let's leave the Who in Doctor Who.
Exactly.
And just get on with him kicking the Silurians or the humans or whichever mood he's in that morning. Going back to the wee boy that comes onto this. What's his name?
Elliot.
Samuel Davies. Lovely performance from him. Gosh, he'll be all these years older now. Hello, if you're watching us. He's pivotal in one of, I think, a scene that would really get the youngsters. I don't know how old you are, Emilio, in 2010 when you were watching this, but I think this particular
14,
scene,
I would have been.
you were 14. Well, this might have worked.
I was 12. Remember, I mentioned earlier.
Yeah.
This particular
and you're
scene,
looking good for it.
it's very Doctor Who-y in a sense for the younger ones.
Yeah. The atmosphere that's really, really strong, really good. It's a shame when you see the Silurian, it doesn't live up to the promise of the scare. If that makes sense.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
This is where I think again, and I'm not letting this go, Who viewers. I'm not. This is where those original designs would have looked better. Like we had our moment where we talked about in Doctor Who and the Silurians, didn't we? When we saw the lovely shot of the Silurian to the side in front of the sunset or the sun's rise, rather. That could have repeated that. They repeated the script. So why not repeat the actual element of a shadow in the moonlight?
Well, it just shows how good a director Timothy Coombe was, really, in comparison to this. Really superb.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
I kept thinking that scene where you're running up. Oh, imagine if the grave just sunk in and he went down with it. You know, that would have been quite funny and hilarious. But again, like I said before, the grave thing is just such an underused idea there. Like it was mentioned, but
there is a shot I quite like, the infrared bit where the Doctor's got his infrared sunglasses. He's not scared of that. But when he looks at the Silurian in the infrared thing, that's quite nice in the kind of in the bushes kind of thing when he sees Neve's character.
Is that the bit where he goes, "I know who you are"?
I know who you are, and that's when the penny drops for him. Surely it must have been the back of his mind anyway. Oh, it's Earth, and I know he's spectated and other things probably as well, but
I thought the blue grass with the head because it's prehistoric grass, so you must have known from that, surely.
Maybe. So the Silurians was always a morality story, says Legion of James, with multiple layers running through various viewpoints. But to bring them back and not really build on or expand on that structure to move forward was a waste. It's a great point, I think, Legion of James, and it's something that on my third viewing just earlier on a couple of hours ago, I do know what you're getting at there, and I do agree, because it seemed to go from there to there to there. I mean, you've just mentioned those sunglasses, Paul. Where the hell did they come from? It's a plot device. The previous Doctor, especially Pertwee, would have put something together from a radio and
with a cup of tea and a corkscrew. That would be fantastic stuff.
Whereas this one it's the way he's written. He just takes out the sunglasses, pops them on, and it can do everything he needs to do.
Yeah.
It's a bit lazy in my estimation. It may have
foreshadowing Pertwee's. It was foreshadowing Capaldi's sonic glasses, wasn't it? Really, which is also another Moffat MacGuffin, really, and equally annoying. It takes away the Doctor's ingenuity, like you're saying. He would have knocked something up.
I think what also could be a little bit annoying as well, right? Is in this episode when Matt waving his Sonic around for like a second, eventually puts it back in his pocket, but there's no you're just doing it randomly in this episode at some point. So I was just the overkill of the Sonic is I
like the fact he takes out his slingshot, his catapult, and fires it at the force field. That's more interesting than using the Sonic, isn't it?
That's more of a Doctor thing, isn't it? You can see Pat, Tom doing that. Or even Sylvester to an extent, you can see them doing that. So I like that. Again, it's a Matt Smith thing. We should have seen more of that with the catapult gun, rather than that bloody. I mean, we all know the only reason the sonic screwdriver's there and all those various incarnations that it goes through is for sales of the blooming character options toys and anything else they can market. It's their version of the blooming communicators from Star Trek, isn't it? Really, Yeah, and it's such a shame because it's supposed to be a scientific device, and here it's, as the series itself has acknowledged, it's used for everything.
Yeah,
can't do wood in this one though, can it?
It's a wand, and we obviously not talk about next week, but there's a clear. The Sonic really goes into like Harry Potter, magic mode. Yeah, totally. It's annoying. Yeah. Totally.
One of the other things that is particular about this particular story as well, isn't it, is the fact that again they're all trapped off. Now this is a great science fiction staple, isn't it? Really, you get this an awful lot, but it does work in this story, doesn't it? To be able to say the Silurians would cut that little bit off. Possibly done. I quite like that element because it, again, from the younger audience at the time. Maybe that was a case of
it just reminds me of the Simpsons movie, unfortunately. That's the problem.
The dome.
Fair point. It's a fair point. But I think it's quite nicely done, and the fact that they are suddenly trapped. I mean, this is a nice way of doing base under siege, like from Warriors of the Deep, but actually doing it on ground, isn't it? Basically,
when it goes dark, it was really nice. I like the fact when it goes dark. That's quite effective, you know.
Well, it certainly is for that scene in the churchyard, isn't it? That I would imagine some of the kids would have loved it, especially as it's a little boy. It's possibly their age group being chased by a monster. How thrilling! How thrilling is that? We never had this in proper Doctor Who. You never saw any kids in proper Doctor Who, did you? Here, they're all in danger. Nothing ever happens to them, sadly, but you know.
I remember watching that live at the time, and you were kind of like willing. You're like, you really wanted the kid to get back. So it does a good job at setting that up. Like,
I think if the kid was annoying, you feel less like that. You know, in Jurassic Park when the kids get electrocuted on the fence, they were really annoying. But this kid's quite nice, so you care for him a bit, you know. So
he did such a better job with this kid who's dyslexic than he did with Ryan, who he seemed to have I'm not sure one of his sons is dyslexic or Chibnall himself is dyslexic, but he's also done it again in his when he took over as showrunner. Ryan with dyslexia. It's mentioned a few times in the first,
and then forgotten very quickly.
He does nothing with it, but there's more character development with the kid than his own actual
element, isn't it? It's another element where, as part of trying to be a character, he brings this. I remember at the time not thinking anything of it because I know dyslexic people obviously, but now in hindsight, which is always a great thing, you can actually see the elements there. Oh, I'm going to make this character interesting by making him dyslexic, and then you forget about it after he draws the picture because it's never mentioned again, and it shouldn't be mentioned again. So why bother bringing it in? You know, the whole point of that child is there surely is for the younger audience to go, they've got him. And also because I love that element where he is actually quite pivotal to the second episode in a sense. We'll come to that as well. I do want to talk about Rory, if I may, because this is Arthur Darvill. I just want to say about Arthur Darvill here. I think this is a lovely performance. He's actually... You can see him sort of finding his feet at Rory. He's come this far. He's still not quite, okay, I've got the hang of this sort of time travel-y thing now going on. He's still a sort of bit like, what's going on? But in this one, you know, when he's mistaken for the policeman, he reluctantly goes and has a look at this thing and he starts to think. He's starting to think, you know, and I love to think, I love to assume that he's thinking, what would the Doctor do in this bit? It's that bit where he's patting the grave wall and jumping up and down going, why is that?
I've no idea what I'm doing.
But it looks good, doesn't it?
And
then when the Doctor comes back and he says, oh, there's something going on here, I just love that. But the scene that gets me the most is you know, the bit with the Silurian where they go and see the Silurian and she's very much, oh, you couldn't resist, and Rory's just sitting there going, okay, what's this about? I love that scene. I just think it's so good. And Arthur Darvill is playing it. I think he plays Rory really well in this episode.
He's got a real kind of slight Harry quality to him. He's not as good as Harry as far as I'm concerned, but he's got a real Harry quality of that slightly clumsy, but he means well kind of quality, which is really, really good. I like that. And he's a good actor. Arthur Darvill, but he gets wasted quite a lot. I don't mean that as a pun. I mean, actually, he does get wasted as an actor, as a character. But,
Well, if you get treated by Mrs. the way he does, I think he's entitled to have a drink or two.
Yeah. Well, Michael's agreeing with you. I like Rory, but he was wasted in 2011 to 2012. But that's the problem when you've got two companions and you can't write for them. You know, because we did see it with Harry. We saw it with Turlough. We saw it with Nyssa to an extent. You know, when you have that second companion, having said that, Perry, you know, one companion and Perry, but yeah, I mean, there's the additional companion there, and you've got to find something to do. So at least in this episode, there is an attempt to find him something interesting to do. But I do think that, you know, Arthur Darvill just plays it and says, well, actually, this is a bit for me to do in this episode, and this is where it's going to, and I've got to play the concern for Amy and then the shock that she's been disappeared, and then I've got to play against this Silurian, and I've got to protect her.
I completely agree, JT. I think I really like the scene where obviously he realizes that, oh, where's Amy, and then like you really see from his acting that you know, Rory is on one hand really pissed off at the Doctor, but also knows that on the other hand that the Doctor's the only one to be able to solve the problem and potentially get Amy back. So you can see like he really wants to go for him, but at the same time, he's like, and the Doctor's like, look, I need you on my side, and so like it's almost like a reluctance. Fine, but I'm still pissed off at you, kind of thing. So he plays it those two elements really well in his acting and really believable.
Matt Smith's reaction to have, oh shit, I've got to tell him she's missing is very funny as well, I think.
Yeah. I think that's great, actually. Again, it's the way that Matt performed. I think this is the Doctor going, oh, I've got to say this, and then they're going to kick off again. Do you know what I mean? There's a sort of reluctance, and that's why he starts by saying, I'll get her back, to try and curb the argument. I part of me is thinking at this particular point, the 11th Doctor is actually getting quite fed up with them. It's just the way I perceive it. Oh God, what black hole can I throw them into? That's just how I love this from JFO, by the way. Hiya, JFO. I love the scene with Matt and the grandfather just after Amy has been taken, and the grandfather says that the Doctor isn't making sense, and the Doctor says, I'm making perfect sense. You're just not keeping up.
That's a brilliant line. Super.
It's a poetry line, that is. And then Nazreen reaction, like, ooh, like, who's this guy? Yeah.
This is so typical of the Doctor. And Matt Smith's Doctor was actually quite good at this. Capaldi sort of took it on another edge. But this is Matt Smith. He's able to put humans down a step or two, really. I mean, these people are very good in the field of what they do, and he doesn't care because he's up here.
But he's got such presence, you know what I mean? He's got such he commands the room, which is superb. Really, it makes a huge difference.
I love that. It's like you were saying, when he walks into the mine, that he just takes command immediately. That was the first time I thought I'd seen an element of the Doctor since Eccleston. No disrespect at all, or maybe a bit, but I just thought, no, that the way this is written, that's what my Doctor would do. He just comes in and takes over the whole thing. So, what are you doing? What's this? You're doing it wrong. Oh, and look at this. There's some monsters coming. Follow me.
He had me 11th hour, said, who the man? He had me on that, I have to say.
It's that simple idea that the Doctor walked into a situation, and you got all these experts who know their systems and the technologies and tools. He comes in and he's like, who is this guy? And he already he knows how it all works. Like, you're just like, if you're the other character, you're like, oh, okay, like, there's clearly someone who's highly intelligent, or like, who the hell is the guy? It does a really, especially this episode, he does a really good job of doing that.
But he automatically understands what all their kit is saying, but then he does stuff to it that makes it show even more that they didn't realize that it could do.
Yeah.
And he's bringing all that out. You saw a lot of that with Tom Baker. You saw it. He would often go in. City of Death is one. He goes in and he sees Professor Kerensky, and he sees his time experiments, and he does this, that, and the other, and it does something completely different. He said, "Did you know your kit could do that?" That's very doctory. And like I said before, Matt Smith was already nailing it.
Yeah.
He was.
As I said before, they have to write the Doctor into the script, so that's the very important thing. They're not doing that now.
No, it's true. Yeah, they're writing a script around a character, aren't they? Which none of us recognise. But here, there's an attempt to actually write the Doctor and to put the 11th Doctor stamp on it. At this particular point in the show, I personally believe that they still understand, because they are fans. So they still understand. Eventually, each Doctor gets its own review book or feature in something, and they've all had to contribute something to say, well, this is the continuation of how the characters. Do you know what I mean? And here in this story and in this season as well, there's an attempt to make him so different to the 10th that those books are able to be written, which they have done. Peter Venkman is going back to the point we were talking about the two companion scenario. It's probably even harder if you don't have their personality down enough for them to naturally fit in the story or writing for an ensemble. Yeah.
Talking of companions, I didn't mind Amy that much in some episodes, but this one I found her really annoying. Was it just me?
Yeah, it doesn't do a good job of setting up her emotions in the second part, which obviously we won't go into. I agree. She's quite irritating in the way that Rose. I think Mickey and Rory are very, very similar. Like, if you look at their personality, they're kind of the weak man, get kind of the doormat, kind of get treated unfairly by the female companion. I mean, they do a relatively good job with Mickey in showing some form of development over time, that he becomes more self-confident and isn't so mopey. But yeah, I think there's just unfortunately to have two male companions in a TARDIS with a female companion, although Mickey were kind of a few episodes, to have them basically just the same prototype companion didn't make. You could do it once, I think, but to do it twice, yeah.
But it didn't. It's for the Hungry Earth. It didn't contribute to the story at all, did it? There was no need for that to be there at all. And I can't remember any other stories. And at some point, of course, we'll review them all. But it for me in this one, I was just in there thinking, right, after all this time, I'm coming back to this, and the dynamic for me, meh, I'm not really caring for them. And in this story, I should be thinking, right, okay, they're about to meet some of the Doctor's oldest. I don't want to use the word foes because, as you know, I'm a big supporter of the Silurians. I think they're totally misunderstood. But these people, this race he's met before.
They try to do it at the beginning, don't they, with the engagement ring? Again, it does not make sense to me why you would just because you're going to take a look at her mind, you want to put your engagement ring back in the TARDIS, or look after her, or whatever, But
it's part of the story arc, though, for the year, isn't it? For this whole season, there's this story arc of Rory and the will they, won't they, which doesn't play off really. And in here, we've got that thing. He's given her the ring. We'll talk more about the ring next week as well, obviously, because that plays a little part in the second episode. But it's all about that, isn't it? It's all about this. When you come, this is my point here. When you do series arcs like they do in all this new rebooted version, if you come to watch them separately, sometimes it can actually take you out of the story a bit because you think, what's going on? So imagine if they repeated this now, which they never will, on BBC One or BBC Two, for example, like we used to get back in the day. Viewers would go, what?
Yeah, it doesn't work in isolation, does it? That's the problem.
No, especially years later. Years and years later, it doesn't work.
I agree. They'll clock on that they're engaged, but they'll look at it and go, they don't really seem like an engaged couple. She doesn't really seem like, and you'll see in both episodes, but she doesn't treat him particularly, you don't get a sense of an engaged couple really from the two of them. So if you just came on it cold, you would, it just doesn't show you the relationship and the stake of the fact that Amy goes underground and what that means for Rory. You get a little bit of that with his reaction, but it's missing something to really demonstrate the stakes of their relationship in this episode.
I just don't think anybody would. I just don't think the relationship was necessarily there because it's all words. No, I'm not taking anything away from the actors; they do their bit, but it just seems to be a token to me to say, look, this is part of a bigger series where it's not like the Ross and Rachel effect in Friends, is it? Domgo, hello, nice to see you. Thanks for joining us. Moffat had a real talent for finding really unlikable companions and then making them even more annoying as time went on.
I think the problem is this is when. Sometimes I like Stephen Moffat's writing. Sometimes it is funny, but it makes the program very self-aware because they're being flippant unnecessarily sometimes. You know what I mean? And it's a bit contrived in some of the dialogue. Yeah, it's a good point. It is.
Do you think Amy was more grating in this because we had Mira Sial's character, who we really would have liked to have had as a companion and would have been much, much better at it? Do you think it's that comparison, just in the same way that we've said about the proms, and you've got that message from this Gatwa person, but then you've got a clip of Matt Smith, and you get the real side by side comparison, and you think, you're not a doctor at all. Because
it's a good question. I would actually say yes, because I'm more taken with Mira Sayal's character than I am with Amy. I'm not invested in Amy at all. She gets taken down below, fine, and then we build up more of this possible. Well, it is a relationship, isn't it? Nasreen and the Doctor do build a short-lived, but there is a lovely, lovely relationship there. And he must be in the back of his mind thinking, "Oh, hang on a minute, you're quite good at this." Because she's capable and she's confident and she's listening and she likes him and he likes her and she's not fazed by the Silurian. She's like, ooh, all this sort of stuff. When this bit, let me just find this. The bit where she's so casually walking below the earth, enjoying every minute of seeing her life study brought to life here. And then she sees all this. she's not that phased with it, really, is she? She's just like, oh yeah, about 12, you say.
The thing about this as well, it's bizarre. When they go down, the TARDIS falls down or gets dragged down this kind of tunnel or whatever.
Yeah.
And then they come at the TARDIS and you see the kind of cave walls. I'm sorry, they are less convincing than the ones in Silurians, the actual caves themselves. The Silurian city looks great, but the cave walls are really plasticky and really like this is a set, don't you think?
Yeah, totally agree.
I struggle with the Silurian city in that we know over time, and it was stated in the Silurians, where Pertwee, or rather the Doctor, is in the Silurian base, and he's looking at that globe, and it shows all the land masses grouped together. So that is the era that the Silurians are from, where there's a single landmass. What's it called? Pangea, that they call it, or something like that.
Yeah.
And if that's the case, then that's what the Earth was like when they went into hibernation. So you've got all these underground, they weren't cities, they were hibernation chambers. They didn't live down there, they lived on the surface. They were hibernation chambers. So you've got these cities in this story underground. And you think, well, over millions of years, you have all these continents and land masses moving right round. All those cities underground would be absolutely pulped, wouldn't
it? Yeah, like an earthquake, wouldn't it? Yeah.
Yeah, it's all moving. They would not be an underground city exactly where there was 300 odd million years ago, because land masses move over time and still happening now. And, you know, and they'd just be pulverized, which is why they were in these armored chambers, not cities. They didn't have a nice little civilization with lights and bridges and bubbling lava.
We get a glimpse of the hibernation units in the next time trailer, and they're not a patch on the ones in Silurians at all. They're far more interesting in Silurians.
Well, you know why, Third Doctor, and why they've done that? You know why they've done that? It's because they can.
Yeah.
They think
look how clever we are with our effects.
Yes, and they think, look, the original show couldn't show this, so we will, and we'll give the fans what they want. But your point is actually quite right, because they were in cryogenic stasis in certain things because the Silurians were clever, and they would have known exactly what you've said. So again, it's a little bit of arrogance, if you like, from
and completely missing the point.
Yeah,
completely missing the point of what they were and what they did.
There you go, Who Viewers. What a brilliant point that is. This show is full of them, isn't it?
Ian should have been.
Paul Ashworth.
The editor should have been, you know, putting no question to Chibnall when he was like, yeah, this isn't really going to make sense now.
He doesn't take questions, believe you me. Paul Ashworth, thank you so much for your super sticker saying keep it up. We will do our very best. Really appreciate that. Thank you, Paul. It's nice to see you. Nice to see you indeed. This is, look, we got this here as well from Steve Hindley. Hiya, Steve. This is defo a parallel Earth with rubbishy Silurians. Oh, I don't know. I think they would say no. Domgo is saying, I've always liked Moffat's Doctors, though. They're top stuff. Okay, fair enough. There was one I didn't want. John and Peter Venkman is saying to us here, I always thought it was above ground. They said they moved and went into hibernation. They were. They ruled the planet, didn't they? They were above ground. And when they saw this thing coming at them and they thought, oh, gosh, we better do something, they built their hibernation chambers, as Ian was saying, underground. They wouldn't have time to have built all those cities.
No. What they could have done, if they would be clever, they could have had a flashback to prehistoric Earth and showed Silurian society or something like that at some point, even part 1 or 2, you know? Yeah.
See, hindsight's a wonderful thing, and we come up with all these things now, but at the time, they just didn't care.
They could have even shown a flashback to a debate about what they were going to do about survival and the chambers, and they could have featured 1 or 2 of the original Silurians, and that would have probably brought this different cast into it, but they wouldn't have been.
What a lovely idea. That'd be nice. That'd be really nice.
It's a lovely idea, but there's no way they were going to do that, because if they rejected those lovely designs we showed earlier, there is for their own versions, there's no way they're going to acknowledge the original 1970s Superior.
They'd be upstaged by them, sadly.
Yeah. Exactly. I want to talk to you about that as well, because we've met this. We've talked about the actual look of the Silurians, and the fact that this is Neve McIntosh, who becomes a regular, well, semi-regular in the show. We know that, but she is, of course, playing two Silurians here. So this is the sister, isn't it? So we've got this one as well, which is differentiated by some lovely red stripes. So it's a layer, and then I can't remember what the other one's called.
Sorry, Raztat, something like
Rusks, something like that. Yeah, and there's Ian's point there about the teeth shown absolutely wonderfully in this as well. It just doesn't work because they wouldn't have that. Although they've got that. How would the tongue work as well with that? Because they still retain the lizard type tongues, and then they've suddenly grown. I mean, let's talk about this here. I don't know how to get into this subject now, but what do you think about this whole thing? Because then we meet this fella. Right. So we've
played
got
by the lovely Stephen Moore as well.
Yeah,
completely wasted in that as well.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, sorry guys, it just doesn't smack of Silurians for me, and it takes it out of it. I mean, they can get away with so much by saying, "Oh, it's another branch of the species." Really?
They could have just made them something else.
Yeah, it's just a cop out. They can't. They sacrifice originality just for messing up something classic. They can't help it. It's an arrogance that they had all the way through it, to be quite honest.
It's one of those things, isn't it? I mean, it was becoming a running order. 2005, Daleks. 2006, the Cybermen. 2007, the Master. The Macra. 2008, you've got the Sontarans.
Yeah. And then the Silurian. They wanted to bring back a classic one basically
every year. Well, why bother when you're going to turn them into that?
It's just boring, isn't it? Like visually, from a creativity standpoint, it's just boring. It doesn't make your brain go, "Oh, this is an interesting design," or "These are interesting creatures." It's just boring. Reflect the writer that's writing it.
And even those extra masks don't really help it, do they, at all?
Well, that's just because I personally think they're just there to cover up the artist's face.
Yeah.
Rather than spending a little bit more money on prosthetics all over their face. Oh, let's just stick a mask on.
Yeah.
But even the outfits, okay, they've got the string thing, which is a homage to 1972, I'm sure. But
and the guns as well are very Sea Devil-like, don't you think? A little bit.
Yeah, but it's like somebody was saying on our original show for Worlds Below, why would the Silurians have a warrior faction when they're supposed to be peaceful? Yeah, I don't know. What do you guys think in the chat here as well? Emilio is about to leave us now as well, aren't you? You're going offshore.
Sorry,
before you go though, I want your for the Hungry Earth. I want your score on the TARDIS door.
6.5 if I can do 0.5 out of 10.
Can we do fractions? They're going to check.
Can we do fractions? Otherwise, if I had to choose between 6 or 7, I would give it a 6. I think it's a pretty average story that is saved by Matt Smith's performance. I like the setting. I think it's really good. I think they attempt to bring some atmosphere and claustrophobia to it, but I think only in part. I think it could have been executed a lot better. As I said, there are loads of ideas here that they could have turned into something made the episode even better. I think the Silurian redesign is just terrible. So yeah, that's how kind of I would summarize it. Their potential to make this episode an 8 or 9 out of 10, but it's written by Chris Chibnall. It got all of its tropes. The countdown clock, the exposition, So I think, had it been written by a more competent writer, with maybe if they had a bigger budget at the time, with a bit more creativity, it could have been something. It could have been a very good kind of episode, a good way to introduce the Silurian to, a modern audience.
And if you'd had proper Silurians in it as well. Listen, Emilio, you're going to be joining us for Cold Feet next week as well, aren't you? So,
I look forward to Cold
Feet.
Cold Feet.
He knew what he was saying.
Cold Feet. So enjoy that.
That would be an interesting title, wouldn't it, for a Doctor Who episode?
It'll be more interesting for a start, I'll tell you.
Well, if you haven't watched it yet, which you all have, you'll know exactly what it is. It's Cold Feet. It just chickens out. Anyway, we'll come to that next week as well. But Emilio, nice to see you. Thanks for joining us.
Okay, guys. Have a good one.
See you next week.
Cheers, mate.
Bye-bye.
See you
later.
See you later. let's head over to what the guys are saying in the chat here. Here on our review of Doctor Who: The Hungry Earth from 2010. Mark is saying to us, Malcolm Hulk knew how to craft stories with well-drawn characters, layered themes, and cultural conflicts. These enrich the plot, creating intricate narratives beyond good versus evil adventures. Exactly that. And with the Silurians, Mark, as we discussed on our Doctor Who in the Silurians review, that's the essential part of this, because these creatures are not monsters. They are not baddies. They're the original inhabitants of the planet Earth. And they think that the 8 descended primitives have mucked it up, and they're not far wrong. So yeah, it's a great point there, Mark. Thank you so much for that. What else we got here as well? Richard is saying to us, Richard Brooks, the leader says they want to return to the surface in the discussion. Yes, they do, don't they, in this particular episode? Saying, look, we've got to get rid of them. It's the same story as it's been before. We've got to get rid of them all up there because they've infected the planet. We want to take it back and we want to sort it out again. Interesting. Thank you to Matt, the wee Silent Wee Music King, saying the males were Malankay and Eldane. Thank you for that. Thank you. And Dog Olvis, and I just watched Doctor Who and the Silurians, and they were totally different. Do you think so? Yeah. Do you not see the different? I see. Oh, you mean the monster? The creatures were different. Totally. I thought you meant the story. Yeah, the creatures.
It's interesting about the idea of the Silurians want to live on the Earth with the humans, because they kind of did that with the Zygon story with in season 9, didn't they? They had Zygons living on living on Earth, and I think that they could have done something with that. I think it could have been quite an interesting idea. Yeah.
Thank you to Richard for saying that Stephen is a great actor who did his best with the script. We're going to be talking more about him next week because he gets a bigger part slightly in this. And Legion of James Ian is saying to us, as bad as they look, the red stripes were a better look than plain green, but overall they just don't embody the Silurians. And the overly female push kind of felt like the beginnings of a forced agenda.
Yeah.
It probably was. But I think we've said before, in Doctor Who magazine, in the comic strips, they did exactly that, didn't they? Silurians living with people, and it was a really, really, really good comic strip. I really enjoyed that one. It was brilliant.
Yeah, we mentioned those on our original show for Worlds Below, didn't we, when we launched this? The Silurians in the comic strip for Doctor Who Weekly, everybody. Doctor Who Weekly, far more superior. Absolutely fantastic, and looked like Silurian. In those days, nobody would dream of redesigning a classic Doctor Who monster. They just would, they just drew it, and that's how it was. So we've got here from Stephen, I just cannot forgive them for what they did to the fantastic original Silurian designs. I'm with you, Mr. Braddock, I really am. And Legion of James saying the master only succeeded in moving them even further from the classic Silurian look. So Deco24 is saying to us, what's more nagging is the soldiers like Alea, who seem more like, oh, right, okay, I don't know if I can say that here, but we know what you're saying. Excellent, Sovik, says Richard Brooks. Release the pacific female warrior brood guards, and Sovik turn down the lighting for the Merca. Yeah. What's Dougie saying to us? Dougie Stewart is, could always get the new Who companions to sit at the back of the class with glitter glue and scissors.
The safety scissors, though, to be fair.
Safety scissors, definitely. Yeah.
And Q Pyro Zero, it's nice to see you. Hope you are well. Thank you very much for your super chat. With the episode had many issues for a peaceful faction that was awfully warlike, a doomsday feel episode, but okay, but classics still win. I mean, the point of this whole, you can actually see this in here, because you've got this suggestion, haven't you, Q Pyro, that the humans are still not ready. So if you're doing what we're doing, you're familiar with Doctor Who and the Silurians, the Sea Devils, Warriors of the Deep, you know where we're at. That's the story so far. So you know where we're at. And they're still not ready. And you can see it coming. You see it all there. You see the humans are still not ready. It gets you quite sort of like, ugh, doesn't it? You think, oh, heaven's sake, especially with this woman. And we'll talk more about that next week as well. So you've got all this sort of stuff. But I don't know. It just sort of, you've got this other class now. You've got this version of the Silurian who's just as bad. She's actually egging them on, Alia, isn't she? She's egging them. Come on, I know which one of you is going to kill me. That's not, again, it's out of character for a Silurian for me. I think the Silurian would genuinely be terrified to be able to say, I will talk to you. I will say that because this is what we want. We want to broker peace here. We want to do so. But this is a totally different Silurian. They actually want war here.
Yeah. But they're not stupid. They're intelligent lizards. They know, they're not thick,
I just don't understand why it was this one. why we've got here. So this is the episode where the mother goes off on one, isn't it? Because the two parters, I'm finding they bleed together. Thank you again, Cute Prior, for your super sticker. That's really cute there. Thank you so much for that one. They know I like these super stickers, guys. They just abuse me for some bizarre reason. But thank you for that. Yeah, so let's talk about this, because this is I find this character really, really, really dislikable. I do not like her. She winds me up. And congratulations to the actress for making this is Nia Roberts, isn't it?
Yeah.
Who plays Ambrose. So, I don't know Nia Roberts. I've never seen her in anything before. I haven't seen her in anything since. So, but I like the fact that she does make this character so unlikable. I find myself getting so tired of her and so exasperated and just thinking, oh, for crying out loud. Do you know what I mean?
Well, she plays it really well. And if she's meant to be irritating, it works.
She must be meant to be irritating, because I think she's written badly personally, because even a wife and mother wouldn't necessarily react by actually threatening another life form, would they? Or would they? Mind you, we're living in a different world to 2010 now, aren't we?
We're living in a very different world to 2010. I think what you've got is Chibnall, and Moffat was guilty of this as well, and Russell T Davies certainly is. You've got these men, for want of a better term, because I would put quotes around that. You've got these men writing these female characters that are either supposed to be strong or independent women and all this kind of thing. And they generally always balls it up, don't they? And they generally always script it wrong and describe it wrong. And I don't think the actors have as much freedom to put their own spin on things as perhaps they did in the 70s and 80s and 60s. I think they're just told, you play it like this. So
they don't rehearse it. There's no time for development. They don't rehearse it properly. So
yeah.
Oh, that's a good
I think
point.
it's more on the bad writing, really.
Two good points from you both there, I think. But what I see here, bearing in mind, and I don't really want to go into this again, but I just see here the makings of what a female Doctor Who written by Chris Chibnall would be. It's just all controversial. So Daco24 is saying to us, to be honest, I think she does what any mother would have done in this situation. It's just the way it's written and then it's played, breaking down every 2 minutes, being constantly high on that sort of drama. I'm gonna get this, not listening, being so arrogant. She's not listening to this man who is saying to her, you have to be better. You must be the best of humanity. If some alien being said to me in this situation, you are representing the entire planet and you have to be the best of humanity, I damn well would be. I would sweat trying to be the best representative of my planet. Do you know what I mean? I would be up there doing exactly what this alien, but she's not. She's just all angst and emotion and not listening and arrogant. Oh, she winds me up. She winds me up. She really does. I just don't like her. Sadeko24. I just don't like her at all. YW2324 is saying, yeah, she annoyed me too. I was like, stop putting yourself in everyone's conversations and situation. And Stephen Braddock is saying the mother was so inflammable, she was going off like a box of TNT. Yeah. I mean, guys, I feel when I watch her, and I've got the second one to watch soon, something happens and I just find myself going tense.
Yeah.
And to act the way she does, the murderess, let's say, I don't know if we can say that on the channel. I don't know what you can say anymore, but she is, she has that. And it's all because all she's interested in is her own family. I sort of understand that, but there's a bigger picture here as well. And the doctor said, look, just be awful character, I think. That's probably what she's supposed to be, though, Paul.
I think she probably is. And that's she was in it just to annoy you, GT, I think. That was the thing.
Well, it worked.
Yes.
Apart from myself and Stephen Braddock and YW2324 and, Richard Brooks, who else? Legion of James said, should have called the mother Karen.
Very good.
And Peter Venkman fansite says, woman struggles with the patriarchy. What else we got here? Cute Prior is saying to us, Disney and the BBC are way too much into making women powerful than everything they do. Just looks weak, pathetic, annoying, and nothing that says strength. you know, if Jodie was here, or even possibly Kirsty, you know, Jodie would definitely sort of say, just write a woman character. Don't be worried about all these elements.
I don't think they can. I genuinely don't think they can. I mean, I find in life generally, personal experience, I find that women's strengths don't lie in reaching for a gun. You know, it's generally is a lot more in the emotional maturity line and emotional strength and stuff like that. I find personally, you know, it's like when the kids go off, you know, I'm literally reaching for the gun, if only, just reaching literally. Whereas my wife's very sort of like calm and, you know, dealing with it rationally and everything. And it's,
so
that's
this is all imagery for anybody that might be monitoring the channel. We don't really mean all this stuff, you know, it's just imagery in context to
yes,
what
exactly. We have to say
saying.
that, don't we? We have to say that. But it's when they write these alleged strong female characters, they just try and end up making them
cliche.
Men. Well, just trying to make them female versions of men, which is just not. If you can't do it right, don't do it.
They have to write strong characters. The fact that they're female or male shouldn't be that as important. It should be a strong character, you know. But
here's an interesting point for Richard Brooks. Chibs was trying to compare and contrast Ambrose with the head soldier Silurian, both obsessive about protecting those who are related to them, but not done very well at all. I like that, Richard. Thank you very much. That's gone right over my head, because all I saw there was the female Silurian with the mother. And I get what you're saying now, but I just thought at that bit that I was really sort of, you know, just like, oh God, you know, what is this about? It's as though there was some sort of element of this is how two females would react. And surely, you know, even if it is a mother-wife situation, surely it should have been played where the woman is the best, because she comes out going, right, I've got to calm down here. I've got to be practical about this, because women are practical. You know, and it's usually the men, isn't it, in stuff like this that go, think of the Brigadier and the guys in unit, you know. I don't know. I just thought it was terrible. I just don't like that character. I just don't like it. And I remember not liking her in 2010, and I've got to sit through it again now. I just don't like it. So, in all fairness, though, so is saying Legion of James, those who are writing nowadays can't even answer the simple question, what is a woman? Never mind, write a decent, grounded, realistic, empathetic character. I hear what you're saying. Absolutely. Absolutely. And Lee is saying Thelma and Louise syndrome. There's an old classic film. And this is, I do like the name Ambrose, says YW2324. Yeah, I'm just seeing in the chat here that Cute Pyro is having a bad time as well. So all the best to you, Cute Pyro, and I hope everything gets sorted out there. I won't talk about it because obviously that's private business, but yeah, hope you are well from all of us here. So, you know, keep joining us, and we'll try and get you through that in the best way that we possibly can here on this nonsense that you're watching. Quite frankly,
valued member of the Who's Views family.
Yeah. I want to say thank you to Dog Olf, who's dashing. We're not too far away ourselves now, Dog Olf. But if you want to give us a score on the TARDIS store out of 10 for what you think of the Hungry Earth, pop it into the chat now, and I will get it very shortly. And Hey B is joining us. It's nice to see you, Hey B. How have you been? Hello, hello, hello. Nice to see you. Thank you for joining us. Yeah. So yeah, I don't know. This is a very odd story, isn't it? This is a very strange story. It's trying to be a greatest hits, but as Steve is saying here, it's lots of silly monsters running down corridors.
It's not even that, sadly.
I mean, in the 60s, the Russians and Americans were having a race, weren't they, to see who could drill deepest into the earth. And I think one of them was called the Mohole Project, and Terrence Dicks references this as being one of the principal ideas behind Inferno. And it's almost riffing off that, isn't it? Because it's going further than that real life one ever achieved. But instead of releasing some kind of gas that turns people into primords, it's bringing the Silurians up, isn't it? It's derivative.
Yeah.
Again.
I seem to recall from years and years ago, and if anyone can correct me if I'm wrong, please do. But But I seem to remember from years and years and years ago that Chris Chibnall was a massive fan of the Pertwee era. And I can't remember if he'd said that or somebody had said that. But I always remember thinking, oh, you know, when I heard he was doing the Silurian story, I thought, oh, well, he's going to be all right. But it's strange how things come around, isn't it, really? Because, you know, to take the basis of the story and try and repeat it and add all these extra elements into it, there should have been another way. Maybe. We've got this super chat here from Cute Pyro. Why would the Silurians kidnap? They are not dumb and they would know what response would be caused. Also, we know they have advanced genetic skills. Yeah. Yeah. Because surely they would observe the humans like the original Silurians did. Even the Sea Devils weren't that quick to act. They watched a bit, didn't they, really? And thought, nah, dismissed. That was the beauty of it, wasn't it? Watch them. Oh, they're apes. Get rid, you know, and this is how we do it. Disease, or however the Sea Devils wanted to do that. You know, it's just.
It's interesting. I'm really glad they didn't release a plague in this one. It's set in 2020. That would be a really unfortunate timing.
That would have been unfortunate, wouldn't it?
That would have been foreseeing the future for sure, wouldn't it?
Yeah. Well, thank you for your super chat there, Cute Pyro. And Terrified Monk is saying to us here, still better than the crap they're putting on air these days. Yeah, I'm going to agree with that. Actually, it's not a favorite story, as you're going to see soon from Skulls on the TARDIS Doors for me. But I'm going to agree with you, Terrified Monk. I was happier watching this, and at least I recognised the Doctor. I saw the Doctor in this. Oh, I'm exhausted. Right, so listen, because I am exhausted, let's have a look at this. We've got some of them now, but yeah. If in the chat if you're new to the chat, this is where we're going to actually start doing our scores on the TARDIS Doors. This is very simple. All you need to do here is tell us what you think of this story out of 10. I'm going to be asking the Whotastic panel in a second. But first of all, I just want to let you know about this. Yeah, as we've mentioned, Cold Blood is going to be the next up here on our Worlds Below season as we review part 2 of this story. Oh, yes.
Can we watch Cold Feet instead?
So that's going to be the same place, same time here on Who's Views, 8 o'clock next week, UK time. Come and join us for that. Plenty of time for you to go and find it on your DVDs, your Blu-rays, iPlayer, wherever you're going to get it from. And then we'll come back and talk about part 2. Okay? I'm so excited about that. I'm a little bit more excited than I have been about certain things this year, but you know, that's that. In the meantime, start getting in your chat now. Out of 10 for this. It scores on the TARDIS Doors. How exciting is this? We're going to put those through there. Right, so we had Emilio's. He's given this 6 out of 10. Third Dr. Ian, what are you going to give this?
I'm going to give this
a wide berth.
Sorry, a wide berth. Yeah, I mean, so much potential, of which virtually none of it was realised. I'm going to give it 5 out of 10. 4 of those are for Matt Smith.
Fine. Yeah, I know what you mean about that. It felt like it was going to go somewhere, and towards this end of this episode, you think, hang on a minute. I know what you're exactly saying. Yeah. Paul, what are you going to give it on scores on the TARDIS Doors?
Well, I feel pretty much the same, really. I mean, when I said earlier, I watched it originally when I was 12 and actually quite liked it, and then I saw it again recently, and I just thought it's a bit meh. You know, it's just not. Matt Smith is brilliant in it. I want to give it more for him because he's superb. He's the best. He steals the entire episode, and he's very doctory, which I absolutely love, and he's a great incarnation. But even with that, I can only give it 5 as well.
Absolutely, and I hear what you're both saying. I agree with both of you, and I'm going to give it a 5 too. Paul, exactly the same. I actually even remember being that excited about it when it was broadcast in 2010 because I just can't get over those Silurians, and then that woman. It all came back to me. This, you know, and as I say, you know, at the top of the show, I was saying I watched it a few weeks ago as we're building up for this season, and completely forgot it. I had to go and watch it a couple of hours before we come on air. You know, so that says it all. So I'm giving it a 5 out of 10 on the scores on the TARDIS Doors as well. Dog Olive, before he disappeared, said 9.5. Wow. That's
I think it
huge.
doesn't help of what Silurians quite near to it, because it doesn't hold a candle to that at all. So
No, it's true. But that's a big score. So thank you for that, Doggo. If you're watching this back, we got your score. Thank you very much. Dougie Stewart is going to give it 5.7 for the score on the TARDIS doors. YW2324, 8.5. That's an amazing score as well. What else we got here? Lex is saying to us 7 out of 10 for Matt Smith's excellent performance of the Doctor. Here, round of applause for Matt Smith on that one. The Moffat era copying Star Trek, especially Voyager season 4 and 7 of Villains of the Hydrogen Hunters. I honestly do believe that whoever chose the prosthetics here was a Voyager fan or was a Star Trek fan and thought we can do it like Star Trek, when actually they should have been thinking we can do it like Doctor Who. I do believe that. So I don't know, but there you go. Rant over. Cute Pro for now. Cute Pyro 0, 6 out of 10. Many flaws. At least the Doctor did not cry. True. John is giving it 7 out of 10. Those teeth are a no-no. Absolutely. Legion of James is saying 5 out of 10. 4 of those points are for Matt. If I hadn't watched it again, it might have been higher, but the rewatch didn't hit well. Listen, when we start doing these new ones, always remember what I'm saying is I think that this series from 2005 onwards is going to date more than the original 26 years. And I think Legion of James, you've just hit the nail on the head for what I'm thinking there. I think this will really, really date because it's just all set in the then, you know? So let's go on that journey together, Who viewers, shall we? That should be interesting. Let's see if the JT's talking nonsense as normal. Mrs. Lisa's Pertwee's Gal is 3 out of 10. Lovely to see you, lovely. Hope you are well. Matt was great in this, says Stephen Braddock. The Silurians hated the design, took out the story. Myra was also excellent and some good scenes. So 6 from me. That's fine. Richard Brooks is also saying to us, excellent Sovics, inform your warriors to set the lighting to blankety blank. That's brilliant. I love that one. Well done, Richard. Paul Ashworth is giving it a 7. Thank you again for your super chat. Sadeko24 is giving it a 4. So that's less than us, lads. That's great, isn't it? Thank you for that, Sadeko. Appreciate that. We've got here Paul Richard saying, I'd have to give this a 6. Would be better with a design closer to the classic Silurians. I agree. That might have got it some extra points if we'd had that rather than this humanoid TT version. Georgia Donald, hello and welcome. Oh, I'm a bit suspicious about your name now. Oh, no, it's McDonald, isn't it? Hello, Georgia. It's lovely to see you. Welcome to Who's Views. Not seen you before. Thank you very much for watching and also for your score on the TARDIS store, which is a 6. Thank you very, very much. If you are new to the channel, please don't forget to subscribe and make sure you ring that bell so you get notifications of when we are going live with our shows. We've got a couple more coming for you this weekend. Really excited about that. We've got headlines as usual, and then we're going to be back with a Merchandise Paradise show at the weekend as well with Daryl Joyce, and we're going to be talking about his brand new calendar. There we go. Hey B, 6.2. Fabulous. Thank you very much. Domgo, 4 out of 10. It's a bit dull. I'm giving it a thumbs down. Richard Brooks saying 6 out of 10 for Matt mainly. Yeah, he deserves that. Julianne Goodwin. Julianne is giving it 6. 3 for Matt and 3 for Mira, the companion that never was. Yes, we shall lament her for quite a long time, won't we? Legion of James, Third Doctor Ian, same score as I gave him, same reasoning. Absolutely. And Hugh Janus, who's my favourite on this one tonight. Thank you, Hugh. Thank you. 5 out of 10, same as us, guys. YW2324, I think 8 out of 10 just because of Ambrose annoying me and just other small things. But overall, I really enjoyed it. I felt entertained, maybe because I was 13 when I watched it. It's been a while.
Could be. Can relate to that.
Yeah, I mean, 8 out of 10. Thank you for that. I'm glad you enjoyed it, though. That's brilliant. 13. Oh, God, I feel old. Sheila B. and the Devotions is saying 4 out of 10. 2 each for Mira and Matt. Fabulous. Steve Hinley is giving it 4. And thank you for your super chat, Lex. Really appreciate that one as well. I've mailed over the trailer for the movie for What Waits Below. I think I sent it a week ago. Oh, did you? Well, see, that shows you. If you do email me, whosviewsone@gmail.com, I will get in touch with you eventually. But it takes me a while because I'm quite busy. So I will get there eventually. And Lex will know that because I do answer him occasionally. Don't I, Lex? What's this? I need to rewatch, but I'd have to buy the episode and I don't want to do it. Oh, for next week. Oh, fair enough. Fair enough. Yeah. Where are you, YW? You're not in Britain? Let me know. Let me know. What else we got here? Anybody else? Dougie Stewart is saying, "Oh, complain to open air." Oh, I would have loved to. We'll talk about that one day, maybe. Is there anybody else for anybody else? Any more score on the TARDIS door? Yes, Mark.
I'd love to see Patty Caldwell giving Chris Chibnall a really hard time on a news program now with a crowd of alleged fans ripping into him and see how he likes it.
That'd be so much fun. Yeah,
that's why none of them will do it, and that's why they always select the audience, isn't it? Because
gutless.
Yeah, they'll never do it because they know what we're like. Mark is saying to us, one, because Chris Chibnall's work on these 2 episodes played a significant role in his appointment as showrunner, allegedly. Yeah, absolutely. Everything's alleged. But yeah, thank you very for that one, mate. Lovely, lovely. And Stephen's pointing out to us that these scores are still way above the Who. Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
Oh, and here we go. YW is saying to us here, I'm in America, JT. Only Classic is on Tubi, but I might make an exception for next week. Don't pay for it. Please
get a VPN and sign up to iPlayer. Say you're in Britain and you've got a license. You're in.
Not that we're endorsing that in any way, shape, or form. We're not endorsing that at all. Anybody watching us at all, because we know you're not supposed to do that. Anyway, so there we go. So, any more scores on the TARDIS stores? No, I don't think we are. So we'll do that there. But yes, so that's us for next week as well. We're going to be looking at Cold Feet, Cold Blood next week here on the show. So to Emilio, to Third Doctor Ian and Paul. Well, that was something, wasn't it? That was something. It's like we were saying. It's like we were saying right at the beginning when we did the Worlds Below actual launch show. They start brilliantly, and then it sort of starts going.
Yeah.
And yet we've got the next one to come. Join us for part 2 of this next week, as we're going to be looking at Cold Blood, which is the final stories, of these episodes. And yeah, what can I say about it? Tune in next week to find out. To Emilio, to Third Doctor Ian, to Paul, thank you so much for joining me. Great to see you as always. We will be back at the weekend here on this very channel. Thank you, everybody, for joining us. It's been an absolute pleasure. Take care of yourselves until we see you next time. Enjoy. We'll see you then. Bye, everybody.
Good night, everyone. Bye-bye.